Yes. Today is what we call here Darshan Day, one of those dates that we commemorate. People who are inwardly related to the mother and Aurobindo, whether in the ashram or in Auroville or elsewhere in the world, because those dates marked some significant events in the life of one or the other. And the 17th November, as those of you who have been watching my videos will certainly know, is a date when the mother left her body in 1973. You know that for me, that date in itself was not as much important as what happened to me on the next day in the morning, on the 18th November, 1973. You can refer to the videos about my double Darshan if you are interested to know. But today, I woke up with a strong feeling for today too. And I discovered why. I was suddenly remembering something that I didn't tell you, that I discovered afterwards. After I was led by the divine to start that Center for Research and teaching and application. About evolution, both as a conscious individual process or as it is in Auroville, on top of it, as a collective process for reaching the inner conditions in each one that can lead to human unity. Not just in words, but as Mother put it in Auroville's own charter, a concrete human unity. So I do have a memory, which is a collective memory. You will understand why. And at the same time, a very individual one. Because in 73, I was not yet engaged on a daily basis in the construction of the building at the center of Auroville that the mother had called Matrimondia. But I was definitely among those who would immediately respond to the call if from the Matrimondia regular team made of Aurovillians who would prepare everything, the shutterings, I mean, for the next concreting of the actual building after the huge excavation had been dug out. The actual construction had started, and over the months, we had been invited again and again for the raising of one of the 4 pillars, 4 huge kind of feet or legs and feet, which would anchor the future sphere, golden sphere to come, into the ground and support that sphere. So every now and then we had raised one pillar and then another one and then another one. And when the four of them were at one level, then we would again go for a round and raise all of them again for another level. And then finally, we reached the point when all the four pillars had been raised to the common level needed for being able to start joining them all to form the basis of the sphere that would start the shape of the sphere itself, of the main part of matrimony. And within it would be, at a later stage, the inner chamber. But the previous concretings had been of a more manageable size every time. And then Pierrot, our main engineer from Italy, Piero Ciccionesi, with his wife Gloria, also into architecture. Piero was the person who made possible the whole actual building of Matrimonia once the design and everything had been done by other people for who it was their specialty. We were really so happy that among us there was somebody with his specific talents and capacities, and he could be the one consciousness to keep together all the work needed over years and years for that entire incredible work to be done and to have someday the results that we have today. So Piero and the whole regular team called one day for a really big concreting. So as many people as possible, please come. And it was to build a big slab, which would be flat to join the top of the four pillars, but which under would be curved because it would be the beginning, the basis, the under shape that would become a full sphere, actually slightly flattened on top and under kind of the shape of the earth itself. So I was among those, many of us, who did come. And it was huge. And the sound of the machine, which actually mixes the concrete with some people, you see, having chosen to put in the sand, some others the gravel, some others this, and etc. So everybody had chosen the spot where they would participate and help in the whole work to happen. And then as a kind of orchestra, the whole thing started. I don't remember at what time, but it went on for hours, hours, hours. We took shifts if needed. Tea was being served everywhere on the scaffoldings and on the different levels where people were working at whichever task was happening, all at the same time. And Pierrot knew that it would go on for very long, even into the night. So some very big lights had been also installed in the scaffoldings on the sides, the 4 scaffoldings for the 4 pillars, and the shapes of the future sphere could already almost be guessed, you see, from the 4 towers, kind of that those same pillars were becoming curved like what we called afterwards the ribs of matrimony, which were the main thing visible later on for years. So when finally that beloved sound of the mixer, I know the fact that I call it beloved sound might be strange to some people, but for us, the sound of the mixer was the sound of celebration, of a collective celebration. And just a few days back, maybe this is what connected me again with what happened on that specific day in 73. Just when I was coming back from our solar kitchen nearby and returning to my living place, somewhere in the neighborhood, some construction work must have been happening. And suddenly I heard the sound of a mixer somewhere, and my heart chanting joy. And I laughed all alone on my vehicle, realizing why I was so happy to hear that sound. So on that day, Pierrot, as usual, noted down in his notebook at what time that huge concreting had been started. And when everybody had left, and he was once again the last one to make sure everything was over, he noted down on his notebook that the concreting had been completed at 7:25 p.m. When I discovered that, years later, it was after 84, after I had been led to start the center of research and teaching and application of all that. That is called the Laboratory of Evolution. So I am its founder and its main researcher. And there is also a big specialized library besides my small private personal library here in my little office. But the Laboratory of excuse me. The Laboratory of Evolution is also, of course, a Center for Human Unity, which is a collective aspect of the inner work we have to do as Aurovillians. Not just inner work as individual progress, but also in relation to the others for a gradual, progressive manifestation of true human unity. So it was in '86 that I started the work which for me was the most urgent, for Auroville to have a more complete compilation of all that Mother had explained about Auroville when the project was only in its inception, then in its infancy, and she had given some messages directly to Auroville itself, to whoever was there at that time, before I came, etc. But I have also a deep interest for archives and for keeping material, for documents of the evolutive curve through which things grow and develop, which are related to evolution. So for me, the best, most useful contribution I could give to Auroville at that time was to make a more complete compilation of all that Mother herself had said to Auroville, also to other people, like to Supramental. I had discovered by reading the agenda through and through many times that Mother had spoken quite a lot of Auroville to Supramental, and very significant passages, many pages, as you see, all together, including about matrimony. And so, through doing that work, contacting people, etc., I found out about that fact that Piero had noted down in his notebook at the end of that massive concreting so many of us had participated in on that 17th November 1973. When I read what he had noted, I noticed immediately the incredible symbolic synchronicity. The next morning, But at that time, I didn't know at all what Pierrot had noted and at what time we had finished the concreting the night before. The very next morning is the morning when I read. Together with other people here and there who came to know. On the 17th November 1973. It is exactly at the same time, 19:25 p.m., that the mother finally had left her body. When I discovered that years later, this struck me so deeply. And the symbolic significance of that for my humble understanding, it is as if the mother had waited somehow until those 4 pillars, each of them standing according to the name she has given to it, for one of the 4 main powers of the Divine Mother in the way she constantly creates and recreates and develops all there is. For those of you who already know the little booklet by Aurobindo, which he called The Mother, there is a description in chapter 6 of those 4 main powers. And when I will not enter into detail now, it would be too much. We will have the opportunity to come back to that. But these are special qualities. Each quality in our being, each talent is a power we can use if it is developed enough. And those 4 main powers are present also in each of us as children of the Divine Mother. But I have seen over the years, starting with myself, that we don't all relate in the same way to those 4 main powers of the Divine Mother. There is wisdom, there is strength, there is harmony, and there is perfection. From wisdom, which is so the description given by Aurobindo are magnificent. I invite everybody interested to find that text and study it if they don't know it yet. But here, the main thing to know is that each person may relate to wisdom because they also have that kind of vastness of mind, already spontaneous in their well-being. Some other people will relate quite easily to the aspect of strength. Some others more to harmony. Some others will relate immediately to perfection. But each person will not necessarily relate to the four of them at all. Many people might relate to two, and not at all or very little to the two others. And there is something at the very end of that booklet about the mother. When Aurobindo explains that for the supramental manifestation, everybody who wants to be able to receive it, to receive that completeness, we have first of all to develop those four qualities in ourselves equally. And when I saw quite physically those four pillars that needed to be, of course, exactly at the same level, at the correct height, all of them together, to be able to support later that huge sphere which would sit there and which the four pillars would embrace and shape later as a sphere it would become. There is no separation between the pillars and the place when they become the four ribs of the sphere. So this is an obvious demonstration of one work which needs to be done in everybody, developing all the four powers, even those of them which are not at all pleasant for us individually at the beginning. We have to discover them and to find our way to develop them in our being, so that also within ourselves, the four are equally developed. You cannot have, you see, something like the Supramental total truth, resting on four pillars with some of them much lower than the others. It wouldn't work. As simple as that. So this is a demonstration through the physical example of matrimony, which is built in volume, in space. From something we will study together for those of you who are interested, the symbol of the Divine Mother, which shows how she works in the universe, which is a pattern according to which her energies work together to arrive at the perfect result and progressive result at every moment. which is needed. So it is as if by deciding to leave her body at the precise time when this big concreting was complete, that means the basis of the sphere linking together as a big slab, the four pillars, establishing the harmonious unity of the four aspects, the four powers of the mother. It was as if that was enough to guarantee that the rest of the sphere then could bloom with the necessary poise and solidity. As if the most difficult part somehow had been done. So symbolically, if one can see that in mother's body, it was the whole of terrestrial matter which was learning from 1956 on how to function with the new energy now present right into matter itself, terrestrial matter of the supramental, that consciousness force, which is way above the frequencies, the vibratory frequencies of the other divine energies of much lower levels that matter has been able yet to accept within itself and to evolve with. So in mother's body, matter had been learning how to function with that new, huge, new energy, which will enable it to do what until now had seemed to be impossible forever. So the work that mother had done together with the cells of her body it is only through reading what she called her agenda, her diary, mother's agenda, she called it. Her gift, she said. My gift, she said, to those who love me. Because it was such a difficult discovery. To be the first body learning to function with a supramental consciousness force. all those who may be listening to me now, please realize that today, if our bodies have acquired some capacity to vibrate, to receive, and to experience higher vibrations than before, and to go through the process now on a bigger scale, which all bodies on Earth are going through, because we are evolving. And our bodies too, thanks to the coming of the Supramental, which Aurobindo managed to pull down from its own realm into not only the atmosphere of the Earth, but its very matter. So let's be all particularly grateful today to Mother. So this is a collective memory this time, a memory of Auroville, which I have shared with you. And I'm glad today happened to be that way. Because I guess from now on, the 17th too, will, to some extent, be a celebration for me because of that, because of the link with the work we did on that day at Matrimony, for it to grow one more level until it was sufficiently ready for Mother to start bringing her presence into the physical world, even more than before, through the physical form of Matrimony, the soul of Auroville, That means the power at its center, which radiates the truth, the deep spiritual truth that Auroville is meant to manifest into the physical world. So the mother and Aurobindo are there. But the matrimony is especially to manifest the mother, the divine as the feminine, the maternal aspect of the divine. Which has been forgotten, or even worse, rejected for millennia. And which needs to come back in our human mentality for our societies and our life in general to become balanced as they should between the masculine divine and the feminine divine, which are present in each being, whatever our physical gender in our present bodies happens to be. I invite you all to share just a moment with me of gratitude, just love for the mother, for her body. These last hours were very difficult. Like in the case of Aurobindo in 1950, the mother too sacrificed her individual body so that the contagion from the consciousness, already so transformed, of her body cells themselves, could go on and spread their contagion in other bodies. I believe at the same time when she left her body, she had seen already her next wouldn't be yet the supramentalized body that will one day be there. When the actual transformation process for that result will have been completed. So from my understanding of what happened when she seemed to die was that both her central consciousness remained in the Earth's atmosphere. And of course, like the one of Aurobindo, and the new body she had seen herself in already several times, she relates that to Supreme in the agenda. So part of the consciousness of her body cells must have gone into that next body. And some portion seem to have dispersed in order to contagion a maximum of other bodies, staying physically and visibly on Earth. All these questions are relevant in my videos, quite simply because I happen to be one of those persons whose body had the necessary receptivity. Again, for those who are new to my videos, please refer to those videos before this one, which is called the double Darshan. So now for a moment, let's come together. To give to our Divine Mother all our gratitude and love. It feels for me as if my hands are a little cup, and the sweet flame of the gratitude of all myself is there. And at the same time, from all the cells of my body. All the little flames of gratitude are shining too. And Mother is smiling. Thank you, Mother. We love you. We love you. We love you. In 1 week's time. My next video. We'll start again with the mother. And again, there will be a huge surprise. I'm not making all this up. It's the way the divine has done it for me. How my soul and the divine have arranged that whole process for me. Surprise after surprise after surprise. Wonderful surprises. So for those interested to discover what the next surprise was, which was quite a huge one again. See you next week for my English-speaking audience. In the meantime, hopefully this Saturday at the end of this week, I will have expressed in some way the same thing as I did today, but in French, my mother tongue, for all the people who don't understand English and who are French-speaking people. Mother.